Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Epol Exports broiler series. A warm welcome to everyone joining us. We're looking forward to spend the next around about an hour with you guys. My name is Stefan Jacobs. I'm the National Technical Sales Manager at Epol Animal Feed. And I want to introduce today to you Mr. Phiri Tau. He's the Broiler Technical Manager at Cobb SA. And as I've mentioned in last week's episode, he's a real hands-on, qualified guy that's gone through the ranks. He started working on broiler farms. He's become a real broiler expert over the years with more than 15 years of broiler farming experience. And today he'll be telling us a bit more about managing the broiler grower and finisher phases. So Phiri, over to you, and thanks for sharing your knowledge and experience with us.
Thank you, Stefan, and thank you for the opportunity. And I'm happy to be in again for episode 7. And I would like to welcome all the people that have joined in. And hopefully today we'll cover most of aspects of the time after 14 days. That will be the growing phase of our chickens. So I hope that at the end of this episode, then you can be able to take this information and apply it on your farms so that you can better your performances on your farms. So like Stefan has already mentioned, my name is Phiri Tau. I'm the Broiler Technical Manager at Cobb SA. So I'm looking forward to share with you the information. So let's just jump straight into it. So today we'll be covering the ventilation part. So we'll be looking more, like I said, on the growing phase of our chickens. That is just after the brooding period. So we'll be looking at the aspect of ventilation. How do we go about managing our ventilation? And also the hot weather ventilation will also cover that. Then again, we'll look into a feeder management during that phase, and drinkers also. We'll look at the litter management, because now when the chickens are big, now the litter condition becomes more of a focus. Then lastly, we'll look at the monitoring of our growth in terms of weight gain of our chickens. Now, first and foremost, we'll look into a ventilation. So we've got, depends on what ventilation system you're using. Let's first look at your curtain-sided house or open-sided house. So we know on those houses, you need to look at the wind direction. That is more of a focus that you have to look at. So on the windward side, that is where the wind is coming from. We regard it as a positive pressure. So when you do the ventilation, you must look at cracking a little bit on the side where the wind is coming from, and on the leeward side, you can open more so that you create the air speed that comes into your chicken house. So like I said before, it's actually a bit difficult to work around your curtain houses, but if you can gather the information and get experience on how to manage your curtains, you can still perform very well. So looking at the environmentally controlled houses, we're looking at the 3 stages of ventilation. The first one is the minimum or cross ventilation, whereby at this period, the aim is only for air exchange. It's only to supply enough ventilation in your chicken house, remove all the gases from your house and also the dust from your house. The main focus there is only to provide a very good air exchange or an environment whereby the chicken will be comfortable in terms of ventilation. So during that stage, we'll be using the side fans, or we call it the minimum ventilation fans, which are the 36-inch fans. that have got a capacity of 10,000 cubic CFM or 283 meters cube per minute. That's the capacity of the fan that will be that I'm talking about. So during that time, we will be running those fans, the 36-inch fans, with the inlets. Remember, when we're running the fans, the main focus is we want to create pressure inside the chicken house. So when those fans are running, they will be extracting air from your house. Then there should be an entry point of air. Then the entry point of the air will be those inlets I'm talking about, whereby you have to actually set your system in a way that it gives you a proper pressure that you're looking, that you want the house to be to have that good air exchange inside your chicken house. So the main important thing is that during minimum ventilation, we use the cycle timer. So you set the cycle timer in a way that is 5-minute cycle time, whereby 1 minute will be, the fans will come on, 4 minutes will be off. So we're using the cycle timer so that we just want to provide oxygen without dropping the temperature in your chicken houses. So the main thing to remember is that the minimum ventilation is only for air exchange. Now, if it happens that the temperature goes beyond your temperature set point in your house, let's make an example of, say your beds are around, say, 16 days, 18 days roundabout, then you find that your temperature, your set point is around, say, 28 degrees. If the temperature goes beyond your set point, let's for argument's sake, let's say it goes to 30 degrees, then the system will overrun the cycle timer because now the temperature is up. So what's going to happen? The house will open the transitional ventilation, the transitional mode, whereby you'll have all your minimum ventilation open. So the fans will be running, the side fans will be running, your inlets will be opened fully. Then you will have the sum of the fans at the back. Mainly, we call them the tunnel fans. So those tunnel fans, we call them as 48-inch fan. It's got a capacity of 565 meters cube per minute. So those are the bigger fans now. You'll have 1 or 2 coming on, then to compensate the pressure, because now when you add more fans, the pressure goes up into your chicken house. No, then by that time, your tunnel fans or your tunnel doors or the recombinant doors will crack a bit so to accommodate that pressure, so that the pressure is not too high in your chicken house. Now, if it happens that the temperature climbs up beyond the 30 degrees, let's say it goes to 33, 34 degrees, then the house will turn into a tunnel mode, whereby now your cross ventilation will be closed, all the fans will be off, and your inlets will close. Then you'll have those bigger fans coming on. Then your rec door or recombinant door or a tunnel door will start opening up so that it accommodates the pressure. Remember, with the tunnel ventilation, the main aim here is to cool down the house, meaning your temperature will be way beyond your set point. Then now you need to cool down the temperature in your chicken house. Then the tunnel ventilation will kick in. So what I've done now on the screen, I've put a table for you guys to see what pressure or wind speed you're looking at. So remember, the pressure and the wind speed goes the same. So let's take a house of the normal house of 15 meter width then you will be looking at the pressure of around 31 pascals. So it depends on what you're using. If you've got a pressure meter, then you can measure your pressure inside your house. And if you're using the wind speed meter, you can also measure the air velocity or the wind speed inside your chicken house. So remember, when you're measuring the wind speed or pressure, you must measure at the inlet. So at the inlet, you put your wind speed meter, then you can see how much speed you're getting inside your chicken house. So another table below, I've put for you to see the maximum speed over the bed. This is where you measure your speed right at the chick level. Remember the first one, the first table you measure from the inlet, and this second one you measure at the chick level. This is the amount of speed that you want, the air velocity that you're looking at over the bed, so that you don't chill the bed. Now, as you go forward, let's look into how the bed loses temperature to cool itself down. So there's two ways in which the bed will lose the temperature from its body. So the first one is the sensible heat loss, whereby the bed will release the heat from the head, the legs, and under the wings. Oftentimes when it's hot inside your chicken house, you find that the beds are opening their wings. So by so doing, they actually expose the part under the wings whereby there is no feathers. So when the air moves through, then it feels cool. That's how it removes the temperature from its body. The other way of releasing heat is through latent heat loss or evaporative heat loss, whereby the bed will start panting, will open up its mouth, and at the nostrils, in the mouth and the nostrils, there will be a bit of some moisture in there. So when the air moves through the nostrils and the mouth, a bit of evaporation takes place there. By so doing, that's how the bed loses its body temperature. Now, let's look at the effect of hot weather stress, actually, the effect of the heat stress on the bed. Remember, always when the beds are big, after 14 days going forward, we start now shifting our focus from providing heat to providing ventilation, because now the chickens have grown, now they've put on feathers, and now the oxygen demand of the bed increases. That's why now we focus more on ventilation during this period. So the effect of heat stress, let's say you've got a day whereby outside temperature goes up to 38 degrees and your beds are over 30 days. So you're more likely to experience heat stress on the beds. Like you see on your picture, the beds will be opening their wings, and they will be panting so that they can release their body temperature. So the stress from the heat actually results in an increased FCR, a feed conversion ratio. We spoke about the feed conversion ratio, whereby we're looking at the bed must use a bit of feed so that it can gain some weight. So when the bed starts to pant, if it's excessively, what's going to happen is it uses the energy from the body to release that heat. So when it uses that energy that way, then it's going to lose on the weight. So it's like ourselves, when you go for training, when you run, you're obviously gonna lose weight. So with FCR, we want the FCR to be lower, not increased. So we must watch on a very hot day and see how we can manage the ventilation part of our chicken. So another thing that is going to happen during heat stress, the bird will increase in terms of water intake. So when they increase water intake, you must know that they will drink a lot of water, and that water is going to be excreted on your floor, on your bedding. So another thing is what's going to happen when these birds are stressed, they're going to reduce activity, meaning they won't eat the feed. By not eating the feed, obviously you're going to lose on weight. So the main thing that you need to remember is that you need to know that when the internal body temperature of a bird goes up to 42.8 degrees, the chicken will start panting, and they will pant excessively. Now, if the internal temperature goes beyond that and it goes to 43.9 degrees, it will result in death. So what's happening is during a very hot day, if you can go into a chicken house in the afternoon, let's say around 7 in the afternoon or around 8 in the evening, you walk around your chicken house, you find that, you will find a bit of mortality in there. But if you don't watch during the night, if you don't keep on ventilating more, because now during the night it's going to be a bit cooler, then your ventilation system will cut down. And you must always be aware that when it's cooler, during that time, you still need to provide air inside your chicken. You must keep your ventilation to a level whereby the birds will still find air movement inside your chicken house. So you must make sure that during the night, on a very hot day, because we know that oftentimes after tunnel ventilation, if the temperature goes beyond that, then the system will kick in your cooling system. Depends on what system you're using. You might use the misting system, or you might use the air, the cooling pads. So during the night, you must make sure that you cut your cooling system out. You mustn't use, that is the golden rule. You mustn't push your cooling system at night, because you'll be increasing moisture in your chicken house. Your relative humidity goes up, then you're gonna cause problem on the birds, because when the relative humidity is too high, more especially during the night, remember the birds are sitting on the bedding that was during the day you've been running your cooling system, and now your bedding becomes a bit damp, or it becomes a bit wet. So there will be a heat that is coming from your bedding, and now when the system, when the temperature outside, or the ambient temperature drops down during the night, what's going to happen is your bedding becomes a bit warm. So your system will cut down in terms of ventilation, and what you feel inside the chicken house, you find that is not what the chickens are feeling, because now there's heat that is generated from your bedding. So ideally what you need to do is to make sure that you run maximum tunnel ventilation during the night without using your cooling system. So remember, if the body temperature goes beyond 43.9, then you will experience that the mortality. You experience the mortality the following day. Now let's look at the feed management during the growth period, or also during the hot weather. So in terms of feed, we need to know that always the chickens must not eat on the floor. When they are grown up, as they grow, we need to adjust the height of the feeder pens or the chook feeders to a level whereby the birds will be comfortable to eat inside your pen. Because if you leave your feeders on the floor, what's going to happen? You find that when the birds are going to eat inside your pens, they push in your litter inside your pens. That's what that's not what we want to see. And also it helps in terms of of growing of the chickens, because they not have to bend to eat feet on the floor. They eat at the good or level whereby they're going to be comfortable in terms of consuming feed. Now, what we need to know is that during a very hot day, or if you anticipate that there will be the temperatures will be high and your beds are grown over, say, the fourth week or 30 days. So for you to reduce the possibility of mortality, you need to look at lifting or removing the feeder lines from the bed so that they don't eat during the hot period or those hot hours of the day. So another thing you need to remember is you lift those feeder lines only so that the chicken does not eat. If they eat on a hot day, what's going to happen? Because now they are eating the feed, they are aiding on their body temperature, and by so doing it will result in stress, because now it's hot outside and now they're generating more heat to their body. So what you need to do is during the cooler hours in the afternoon, that's when you can resume your feeding, whereby you put back your feeders so that the birds can access the feed. So another thing you can look at is on a very hot day, you look at your lighting program, whereby during the day, you make sure that when it's if you experience a hot day, at night, because now the birds haven't been eating during the day because of the heat, so you must adjust your time in terms of your lighting program. So I normally advise that during winter, you can switch off your lights earlier, so that by during the night when the temperature drops, where you find that at the coolest time of the night, your light must come on. That is what you need to bear in mind for winter in terms of lighting program. So for summer, because it's hot, the lighting programs, you need to push it up, say around 10 or 11 in the evening. That's where your lights can come off. While during winter, you can look at 8 or 9, because now during summer, you want to accommodate the time period where the birds haven't been eating. We know at around 6, 7, the temperature will cool down outside and the birds will start eating more. So by then, you need to accommodate that period whereby before the light goes off, the chickens have eaten and they've drank the water before they go to sleep. So you need to adjust your lighting program on a hot day. Now, on feeding management again, on a very hot day, even if it's on average day whereby the temperature is okay, we need to practice what is called pen clean out. So pen clean out actually is about to ensure that there is not a buildup of fines inside our pens. So what happens is we know from starter to grower and finisher. Grower and finisher comes at a pallet form. So during that time, when the chickens are used now to eat the pellets, if it happens that you see in your pens that there's some fines inside the pens, you need to ensure that the birds eat those fines, because they won't willingly eat those fines. So what you can do to force them to eat the fines is to switch off your feeders, or if you're using tube feeders, don't just keep on topping up those feeders. Give them time to eat the feed that is in there until the fines are remaining there. Then the birds will be forced to eat the fines because there's no more pellets inside your pen. So when they eat those fines, what you need to remember is that those fines are some, particles that are coming from off the pellet. So those fines are actually having a lot of nutrients on them. So it's important to ensure that you force those birds to eat also those fines. The reason why we want to reduce the fines inside the pens is that if you don't practice the pen cleaner, if you don't watch how much fines you have in your feeder pens, what's going to happen is you're going to lose those fines because the birds are so used to eat the pellets, so they're going to scratch out those fines from your pens. So you might not be able to see it physically, but I can tell you, you're losing a lot because they will keep on scratching those fines out of your feeder so that they can access those pellets. So it's imperative to make sure that you can do it daily to clear up those fines, to enforce those birds to eat those fines. So if you don't do it, you will lose those fines by the birds scratching it out, and now your FCR is not going to look good. So we need to make sure that once you clear those fines, then you can introduce your feed again in your feeder. So it's very important to practice pen clean out. Now let's look at the drinker management during the growth phase. So depending on what you're using, what drinker equipment you're using, let's say you're using the bell drinkers, or again, you need to make sure that you lift the bell drinkers as the chickens grow, so that they can drink comfortably. And another thing you need to remember is to make sure that you clean the bell drinkers more regularly, because now it's an open system whereby the dust inside the chicken house come and settle on your drinkers, and what's going to happen is there might be a bit of contamination on the water. So make sure that you clean them regularly. If you're using the nipple drinkers, also you must adjust it. You must adjust the height of your drinkers, of your nipple, so that the chickens are drinking comfortably without jumping up. If it's too high, they're gonna jump up to drink that water, and also they will be reluctant to drink water because now the water is not easily accessible. So you need to make sure that when the bird drinks, the feet is flat on the floor, then it can drink. So you must adjust it slightly above the chick's head so that it can drink comfortably. Remember, if you drop your lines too much, the birds will try to drink, but now you'll have some water dripping from your nipples to your bedding, and now your bedding is going to go off, and you don't want to have that wet bedding inside your chicken house. So adjustment of your height is very crucial. So with the nipple drinkers, we need to make sure that we flush the nipple drinkers regularly, so that we can do away in terms of biofilm inside your nipple. So what's going to happen inside your nipple pipe, as the water flows in there, so there might be a buildup of a layer inside in the nipple line. So to do away with that biofilm, you need to flush regularly. And when the birds are still small, you can regularly flush your water line so that you can keep the water at a required temperature. Then you can manage your water temperature. So another important aspect in terms of nipple drinkers is the correct water pressure. So we recommend that the height of the nipple is at chicks are at early stage, and whereas after say some few hours, 2 to 3 hours, then you make sure that you lift your lines above the chicken's head. So it's important. I've put for you on the screen how much bed drinkers you're gonna need for how many beds, and also make sure I've already mentioned about controlling the water pressure to avoid spillages. So what I've done for you, I've put here the water flow meter that from Cobb, we can supply you with this device whereby you can use it to measure your water flow from your nipples. Then the procedure on how to go about it, you just place your water flow meter, you press it on your nipple, so that you must first have the equipment, the water flow meter. You must have watch alongside with you, whereby you can time it. So for 30 seconds, you press the nipple, then you see how much water you're gonna have. So on this gadget, there's some readings whereby you can easily see, okay, my betas are 15 to 21 days. This is where the water should be in terms of the pressure inside your nipple line. So I've put for you there, because remember, if you don't have enough pressure, there will be very little water coming through. Then there will be a bit issue of competition in terms of water, because there's enough water coming through. And if there's not enough water, the chickens, they are not going to consume feed. We said it before that the birds will need water before it can consume some feed. So if you don't have water, definitely you're not going to have feed consumption. So it's important to always check your flow, your water flow, whereby you can adjust your pressure from your regulators to a required water flow. Now let's look at litter management during growing phase. We know that once you place your bed, the first week, second week, your litter still looking a bit fine, but the third, fourth week, we realize that the bed now is going off. Like I said before, it's because now the beds have been sitting in there for all that time. So they've been drinking water, and all the water that the chickens drink, they're gonna excrete it to the floor. So it is important that when you do ventilation, you think of the moisture inside your chicken house. You must also bear in mind that you do ventilation to also dry your litter. So all the time, at this stage, that's where you need to evaluate your litter. You look at your litter. Sometimes you find that your litter is caked. During that time, you need to make sure that you break that caked litter. It's not advisable to just remove the caked litter if it's still dry. The best is you break it down. You can use your fork to break it down so that it's soft for the base to walk on top of it. And by evaluating the moisture inside your litter, you just take a sample of the litter and squeeze it in your hand. And by the time you release your hand, if that lump still sits there compacted, you know you've got a bit of a moist, the moisture contact of your bedding is high. Then you need to push your ventilation. So oftentimes you need to make sure that your ventilation is in a way that you remove the moisture from your bedding, so that you don't encounter the issue on the picture that I've put here, the foot pet dermatitis, whereby oftentimes we see under the feet of the chicken, there's a spot that develops there. And by the time you see this spot, you think it just happened immediately. It is even during your brooding period. If you don't manage your ventilation properly and you don't put effort on your litter management, it will start there. By the time you see it's big, and what's happening with the food pet dermatitis is that when you realize that you've got too much of it, you must bear in mind that the birds are no longer comfortable to walk around, because now that food, that pet, is now infected and it's painful for the bird to walk around. So the chickens will be reluctant to eat the feed because when they walk, they feel a bit pain. So to an extreme state, if your bedding is too wet, you will have the foot pet dermatitis. You might even go beyond that, whereby you have the hog bend, and also the blister on your breast. So when you see these things, you know that it's going to affect the meat quality of your chicken. So there's a big market out there for the feed. So for us to sell the good feed without the foot pet dermatitis, we need to make sure that we manage our litter properly. So to control moisture inside your chicken house, what we're looking at is the bedding material, the type of the bedding you're using. We mentioned last week that the pine wood shavings is the best bedding material that you can use. And also with the bedding material, we're looking at the depth of your bedding material. That should be 3 centimeter deep, so that it can provide an insulation between the bed and also the floor. And again, we're looking at the stocking density. Remember, like I said before, the beds that are inside the chicken house are the other contributor to moisture on your bedding. So we need to make sure that our stocking density are correct. So I said earlier last week that if you're using the curtain house system, we need to make sure that the stocking density is not over 15 beds per square meter. So preferably 10 beds per square meter. It will be best to keep it that way. And if you are using the environmentally controlled houses, because now you've got a way of managing your ventilation, you can also go around 22 beds per square meter, because now you can manipulate the system whereby you push air with the pressure that you would want. So another thing that we need to look at in terms of moisture in your chicken house, another contributor is your drinker management. You need to ensure that there's no leakages on your system. The water pressure is right, whereby there's no water dripping from your nipples. So you need to make sure that whenever you see that there's a wet pet inside your chicken house, let's say a wet litter from a spillage or so, you need to make sure that you remove that spillage, that litter that is now wet. You need to remove it out of the house and replace it with a fresh or dry bedding. So ventilation also plays a big role. Like I've just mentioned, you need to ensure that you have enough ventilation to dry up your litter, so that your relative humidity, which is the amount of air inside, the amount of water inside the air, is lower. Because if your relative humidity goes beyond 70%, then you start having problem in terms of your litter, and also the beds will have an issue in terms of cooling themselves down with that high relative humidity. So another aspect that I've said we're going to look at is monitoring our growth. So by this we mean we need to do test weights. So when the bird comes to your farm, oftentimes on your delivery note they will mention what breed is what hatchery is coming from, what breed is it, the flock age, which is the mother of those birds, and again they will show the chick weight. We're always looking at the chick weight of at least 40 grams. So they will write 40 grams chick weight. So for you as a farmer who is interested in terms of, double checking and ensuring that what they've given you, what they've written is accurate, you can do test weight from day 0 when the chickens come, just to check whether what they've written is right. It's important to do that. Then at 7 days, you do your test weight again, 14, 21, 28, and you can also go just before, 32, and just before you slaughter those birds or before you sell those birds. It's imperative to monitor the growth, because at 7 days, if you see your birds are a bit lower in terms of the standard, then you can do some adjustment in terms of you can look back into how do you do your feeding, how do you go about water and also lighting program. You can actually make a decision on what to improve before you get to a stage whereby the birds are over 30 days and you realize that your birds are actually small and you don't know what happened throughout because you haven't been monitoring. We oftentimes get the calls. Someone will call you that, hey, my chickens are not growing. And oftentimes the question that I will ask is that, how old is your bird? They say, no, it's now 4 weeks. Then 4 weeks, you are very late to do anything. Actually, you just have to sell those birds and now look into improving in terms of your management the next cycle, because at that stage the chicken should have grown, because now you've passed the growing period and now that's the time you realize, oh, my birds I haven't grown and there's nothing you can do. And with our farmers, they start asking, what can I give them for growth? Then I start thinking, oh, I think of all the vets I know and there's no magic that you can play there. So there's no way you can correct that. Like I said last week, this is a sprint, not a race. We need to make sure that from the word go, you do things right. You need to monitor every day, because every day the chickens will put on weight and that weight will accumulate as the chickens grow, as the days goes by, and by the time you want to sell those birds or want to slaughter that bird, you will get those desired weights. So the procedure in terms of doing test weights is, first you need to ensure that you have a scale that is calibrated, that is working functional very well. Again, you must have a crate whereby you're going to put those birds inside that crate. So you will hang the scale, then you hang an empty crate on a scale. Then it's important to remember that you have to tear that scale whereby you zero it so that you remove the weight of the crate, so that by the time you take those birds into your crate, you don't weigh the bed and the crate at the same time. Then if you zero it, then the weight that will be there, it will only be for the chickens, so that you can see your average weight. So what we need to do also is to make sure that when we weigh the beds, let's weigh the beds from front, middle, and the back of your houses, whereby you have to maybe build a bit of a cage. You can use a fence that you can build and use it as a cage, whereby you will close off some of the beds there in that pen. So ideally, you need to weigh everything that is in there. Don't just weigh few beds, then you go to the middle few beds, because it's something in us as human. If you are to choose things that are not of the same size on one place, your eyes just goes to the big chickens only. You will first remove the big ones, then go for the small ones. So the best you can do is weigh all the chickens that you have closed off, so that you can get a good average of what's in there. So it's important that we weigh our beds every 7 days, like I've already mentioned. By so doing, you will be able to monitor your growth, and at the end of the cycle, you don't get those surprises why my beds are not big. It's because something happened along the way, and you are not able to pick up earlier, so that you can correct it immediately. So up to so far, I want to say thank you for the time that you joined in, and thank you for Stefan and the Epol team for the opportunity to allow me and share with you the information today. So I hope you're going to use this information to your farms so that you can better your performances. Then what's going to happen from now on, we'll go for a short break. Then after the break, we'll tackle your questions. So feel free to send your questions so that we can answer those questions. And again, you can also call the aspects at any given time so that you can get some more of the information. So we'll go for a short break. Myself and Stefan will answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Phiri, and thanks for your presentation. We really enjoyed listening to you, and well done. I think some really valuable information shared with everybody in the industry and everybody interested in broiler farming. Once again, thank you to the guys that's sending in questions. It's really nice to hear back from you, to understand what's the issues that you guys are grappling with, and that we can try and assist you with. So we see posted the first question for us, and the question is, for how long do I have to keep chicks or chickens under a heat lamp? When is it safe to take them off completely? Phiri, if you can assist us with that question, please.
Thank you for the question. And okay, the main thing about brooding, because what you're asking about the lamp, I assume that you're using your infrared lamps for brooding. So as a farmer, what you need to bear in mind is that we can't tell you what day you must remove your brooding. The best you can do is use the thermometer in your chicken house so that you can monitor the temperature. So what's happening on your thermometer? You've got a mini and a max. Mini or minimum temperature and your maximum temperature. So on your minimum, you can see there's a mercury there which will tell you the actual. And on top of that, you will see a pin, a blue pin. That pin actually it helps you to check that over 24 hours, how low the temperature have gone on a particular day. And on the maximum, you see the actual on the mercury. Then on top of that, there's a blue pin that will show you over 24 hours how far the temperature have gone up. So it is important that you monitor that. So every morning you go into a chicken house, check how far your temperature has gone low. If you realize that it doesn't go too low, then that's when you can decide. So, but in other words, I would say, as a farmer, you need to put effort in terms of watching your temperatures. So we always say after 2 weeks, that 2 weeks is the brooding period. But remember, you can see the temperatures these days. You've got fluctuation in terms of temperature. So you won't say on day 16, I will just switch off completely. So on the houses that are the controlled environmental houses, whereby the system, the system has it regulates the temperature automatically. That during that time, then the sensors will always be on standby. If the temperature goes too below, then the brooder will kick in. So, but if you are doing manually, I would advise that use your thermometer to decide, because we can't just say 14 days exactly you have to cut out. You have to switch off your brooders. But we know for sure that 18 towards 20 days, that's when your chickens are fully grown, and it's safe that time to switch off your brooder. But you must always switch off your brooder completely based on the temperature that you see during the night. Thank you.
Right, thanks there, Phiri, for that comprehensive answer. The next question also directed at you, and the question is from Ntsika, and the question is, how many hours should the lights be off during the night?
Okay, it's a very good question, Ntsika, and again, I think I've covered it earlier on. Then, in terms of switching off the lights, which is the lighting program, we recommend that always check the seasons. If it's winter, the main thing that you need to bear in mind is that you need to switch off the lights earlier. Let's call it around 8 or 9. Then it depends on what lighting program you want to be. Always we say don't go beyond 6 hours. So you can switch off the lights during winter at around 8 or 9. Then during the coldest time of the night, then the light comes on. When the light comes on, the activity goes up. The birds, are awake, and the activity goes up. Definitely, they will add on in terms of the temperature during that cold period. So during summer, you must always make sure that you don't switch off the lights early. Switch your lights, say around 10 or 11 in the evening, and you go, whether you go 4 hours or 6 hours. By so doing, during summer, we want to accommodate the birds, because now during the day it was hot, and now the birds haven't been eating. Now to compensate that time, we need to push our lights slightly higher, whereby you switch off the lights at around 10 or 12. And again, with the lighting program, make sure that you don't go beyond 6 hours, because now you're gonna starve those birds, and if you starve the birds, they're gonna lose on weight, and then it becomes a problem. I think I've covered the question, Stefan. Thank you.
100%. Thank you, Phiri. Our third question is from Justin. So Justin mentions that he noticed that we didn't mention the use of grit in conjunction with our feed. Is it necessary to provide grit for broilers and or layers to process the feed? So good question there from your side, Justin. I think, first of all, the requirements for calcium, and that's what the limestone grit will provide, is a bit different between broilers and layers, because of layers laying eggs basically every day. They have got a bigger requirement for calcium because of the eggshell that needs to be formed, whereas broilers doesn't have that significant requirement for calcium. Very important for broilers is the correct calcium to phosphorus ratio. So because we provide balanced feeds from Epol, all our feed contain the necessary calcium and phosphorus levels to support both skeletal growth and development as well as leg health. As you know, with a broiler needing to feed often and also be mobile in terms of finding water and feed and be comfortable in terms of where they are in the house, skeletal and leg health is very important. So in terms of broilers, no need for extra grit. In terms of layers, and we'll cover that when we start with a series on layers and layer episodes, there might be certain circumstances where you need to do extra feeding of grit, but we'll cover that when we get to that episode. So thank you there, Justin. We've got one final question, and the question are broilers supposed to be feeding at night if they are 3 weeks old? And Nyombi asked that question. Phiri, if you can assist us with this final question, please.
So you mean at the third week, eh?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. No, I hope I understand what she's talking about. So I believe from the third week, that's when you'll be on grower. So with broilers, you just have to make sure that you have the feed throughout. So even during the night, what's going to happen is even if the lights are off, you must make sure that before the light goes off, you've got enough feed in your pen so that when they wake up when the light comes on, you've got enough feed in the pens, because that will stress the birds if there's no feed when they wake up. So throughout the lifespan of the broilers, make sure that you always have feed from day one up to the last day. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Phiri. Once again, a heartfelt thank you to Phiri for joining us and spending some time with us and providing us with his expertise from our superior breed brand being Cobb, and working in conjunction with Epol, and well done, and thank you again. I think just maybe to conclude in terms of today's discussions, I know there's some questions around the marketing phase, and we've got so much interest in that topic, and the time that was taken with today's presentation, we thought that we'll have a specific episode covering the marketing side and maybe some processing as well. So be on the lookout for that in forthcoming episodes. Please stay tuned for further episodes. You'll see on social media our next episode that's taking part next week will be around disease management. We've got one of our RCL Rainbow vets that will join us and to share his knowledge and expertise. So I'm myself looking forward to that episode. Lots to be learned as usual. And I think it will be really nice information for our broiler farmers out there, either current or prospective guys. So please, guys, join us again, and thanks for your loyalty, and thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Stay warm and stay safe. Thank you.